What if you could noticeably reduce the amount of stubborn belly fat you carry around your midsection while at the same time starting to build lean, rock-hard muscle as early as next week, possibly? Could you see better results than you have with previous attempts if you cut out the guesswork and had a proven roadmap on how to maximize your fat loss results while still being able to eat the foods you actually like? Now that may sound crazy, but would you be opposed to me showing you exactly how career-driven family men just like you and me are losing 25 to 50 pounds of stubborn fat and getting into phenomenal shape in just 90 days? Now, if that's something that you're not looking to do, please go ahead and exit the page. But if you stick around, you're gonna discover why the diets, cardio, and workout programs that used to work when you were younger don't seem to move the needle anymore, and more importantly, what you can do about it. We'll explore a little known biohack that's been proven to 3 to 5x the speed of your fat loss results and give you more time back in your schedule. You'll discover why 95% of men who do lose weight by traditional dieting methods end up gaining that weight back, usually plus more, within 5 years. And finally, how you can and will get into the best shape of your life this year, no matter how many kids' activities, client meetings, or honey-do list items you have on your schedule. But before we jump in, some quick housekeeping because this training is not a cookie cutter solution for anybody and everybody. In fact, it really only works for a certain type of individual with a very specific problem. So that being said, this training is for you if you have a good career or even run a business and have tons of family responsibilities. The time constraints, hectic schedule, and overall stress of this combination puts you in a very unique category. The good news is this can actually play in your favor once you know what you're doing. More on this later. If you used to be in good shape but have started to gain weight in more recent years, most likely around the midsection, and feel stuck. Maybe you used to be an athlete, or maybe you just used to find it much easier to stay in great shape when you had less on your plate. Either way, if you look back at photos of yourself from 5, 10, or even 15 years ago and compare them to today, you'd agree that things aren't trending in the direction you'd like them to. If you've experienced temporary results but ultimately ended up back at square one. If you've tried counting calories, cutting carbs, eating keto, or just making better choices and have successfully lost weight only to gain it back within a few weeks or months, this training will explain why that is and, more importantly, how to fix it. If you're an action taker who's willing to follow through with what you're about to learn. Look, if information was all that was required, we'd all be billionaires with six-packs. Like anything, you'll need to take action and implement on this stuff for it to work. Don't be a success zombie, be a man of action. And lastly, you're motivated to get into incredible shape so you can have more self-confidence, energy, longevity, and let's be honest, status once and for all. If that's you, strap in because we're about to go on a wild ride together. So who am I anyway? My name's Joel Staley and I'm a husband, a father to 3 young daughters, a fitness coach, and creator of the Shed Fat Fast program. If you haven't already heard of Shed Fat Fast, it's an award-winning 90-day transformation program for men that has helped over 1,500 family men get into the best shape of their lives by implementing the exact 3-step solution that we'll be covering in depth right now. Guys like Matt, who lost a whopping 74 pounds of stubborn body fat in just 90 days, using the exact info that we're about to dive into. Now, you may have heard that rapid weight loss is unsustainable, and if you go about it the wrong way, it definitely is. But here's an update from Matt a year and a half later, and as you can see, he's kept the weight off and is still crushing his fitness goals. Or Evan, who lost 40 pounds and 6.7% body fat during our 90 days together. 3 years later, he's kept it off and is using what he's learned to continue getting better and better results. Or even Bruce, who had a little bit more weight that he wanted to lose, but through this proven strategy that we're about to cover, has gone on to lose 235 pounds of stubborn fat in just a couple of years. And many, many, many more. Now, besides just being career-driven family men, all of these guys do have one thing in common. They were action takers who resonated with the training you're about to watch, and they scheduled a personalized strategy call with me. I'll invite you to take advantage of this and do the same. More on this later. But first, let me explain something. Counting calories, meal prepping, cutting carbs, and just trying to eat clean, These methods will work for you if you're still in your 20s, you have absolutely no career stress or responsibilities, you have zero family obligations, and this is a big one, you haven't reduced your metabolism through years and years of yo-yo dieting. Unfortunately, if you're still here, that's not us. At least, not anymore. As a matter of fact, for the first 30 years of my life, staying in shape came somewhat easy for me. I had all the time in the world to work out, I could prep my food and have full control over all of my meals, and I had very little stress and almost no responsibilities to detract me from hitting my fitness goals. Fast forward a few years, add a wife who loves to cook, 3 daughters who depend on me to finish their leftovers, and a business that requires time, energy, and meetings with clients to the equation, and I finally started to understand what the dad bod was all about. Like most guys, I lied to myself for a while. I told myself things like, being lean and strong is a young man's game. It's not for middle-aged dads like me. My wife likes me better with a little meat on my bones. I don't have the time to commit right now, but I'll do it later when things finally settle down. And plus, isn't the dad bod in these days anyway? But deep down, I knew the truth. That my belly was starting to protrude through my shirt and hang over my belt line when I hunched over. That the energy I used to have to play with my kids at the end of the day was negligible at best. That I was no longer excited to take my shirt off at the pool and show off my hard work, but instead became a hater to all the guys who looked better than me. But most of all, that the guy looking back at me in the mirror each morning didn't represent who I felt was the real me, but was instead more of a second-rate version of my true self. I knew something had to give when our family received an invitation to a pool party one summer, and my first thought was, how can I get out of this? After telling my wife I didn't want to go and seeing the disappointment on her face, I knew something had to give. So I drew a line in the sand right then and there and said, enough is enough. It's time to grab the bull by the horns. At first, I tried counting calories and macros like I did back in my 20s, but after digging cans out of the trash and scanning them into MyFitnessPal, I found that it just wasn't logical now that I was eating real meals with my family, not just ground turkey and minute rice like I had done in my single days. Not to mention, always being on my phone trying to look up calories was not how I wanted my daughters to remember their dad when they grew up. I tried cutting out carbs and eating keto, but it just doesn't make sense after your 5-year-old scores her first goal at soccer and wants you to take her out for ice cream after. Or when your wife wants to try that new Italian restaurant. Or when your family wants to have a pizza party, movie night together after a long week. Not to mention birthday parties, date nights, anniversaries, holidays, the list goes on and on. Those meaningful moments with my family were just not things I was willing to part with. I even tried meal prepping, but wasting my entire Sunday putting meals together and then fragmenting my workday into eating every few hours just seemed to make life worse. And those prepackaged frozen meals, well, even I wasn't desperate enough to choke those down. Luckily, after some trial and error, I finally found a solution that not only worked, it actually got me into better shape than I ever previously thought possible. All without sacrificing time with my family, the growth of my business, or the foods that I actually like to eat. Oh yeah, and it worked fast. Like really fast. So not only was I able to take my family to the pool party and feel great about myself, I've continued to use it to keep getting into better and better shape, even while taking on more responsibilities with my family and in my business. But this is about you and solving your problems and giving you the tools that you'll need to be able to get into incredible shape over the next few months so you can be lean, confident, and lead your family into a healthy lifestyle. So let's dive in. To get into the best shape of your life as a career-driven family man in as little as 90 days, 3 things need to be in place. Not only do they need to be in place, they also need to work synergistically with each other like a well-oiled machine. Luckily, by the end of this training, you'll know exactly what to do to capitalize on this 3-tiered system. But I digress. The very first thing that needs to be in place to lose the 25 to 50 pounds of stubborn belly fat and go the distance in your fitness goals this year is a flexible diet plan. I'm sure you've heard abs are made in the kitchen, you can't out-train a bad diet, you are what you eat, and other admittedly corny but true sayings about the importance of diet when it comes to getting into incredible shape. But here's the problem. When most guys hear the word diet, they think of what they eat, which is a large part of why 95% of diets fail. Think about it. If somebody has eaten a particular way for 20, 30, even 40 years, and then on a whim decides to cut out all of their favorite foods and instead just eat lean meats and veggies, chances are they can do it for a few weeks or potentially even a few months if they're extremely motivated, but then what happens? Life stressors come up, or best case scenario, they do hit their weight loss goal, and then immediately after, they feel the need to make up for lost time and totally binge out on all of their favorite pasta, nachos, burgers, donuts, and whatever other foods they've been restricting themselves from all along. Not only do the men who fall into this never-ending roller coaster feel an immense sense of shame after finally giving in to these inevitable temptations, the psychological effect of constant restriction combined with the lowered rate of metabolism caused by this type of dieting accounts for why so many men, 95% in fact, lose a little bit of weight just to gain it all back plus more. So when that doesn't work, the backup plan most men have is to change how much they eat. Small, frequent, bland meals throughout the day that always leave you feeling unsatisfied and wanting more. Let's put the constant hunger, inconvenience, and metabolic damage aside for a minute. If you're a career-driven family man with endless obligations, responsibilities, and to-do lists, does buying, cooking, prepping, and eating 6 to 8 small meals a day really sound like a realistic diet plan that you can stick to forever? I'd argue not a chance. But what if we thought about dieting a different way? What if instead of changing what we eat or how much we eat, we adjusted how often we ate instead? What if we pushed back our calories to later in the day so that we could not only eat the foods we actually like with our families and in the quantities that actually leave us feeling satisfied, but we could also have more time during the day to be productive in our careers or businesses? To fully comprehend the game-changing information I'm about to bestow upon you, it's crucial that you understand a little hormone known as insulin. Luckily, insulin is a very, very simple hormone to understand. Think of insulin like a light switch. When insulin is raised, you cannot burn body fat, no matter what. It's impossible. When insulin is low, you do burn body fat, period. So then the obvious question, if you want to burn body fat, is this: what raises insulin? The answer? Insulin is raised as soon as you eat and stays elevated anywhere between 4 and 6 hours after you eat. So what does this mean exactly? It means that we wake up in the morning in fat burning mode, and as soon as we eat our first meal, we transition from burning stored body fat to burning the food that we just ate. Now, most of us eat every few hours between meals and snacks, never truly allowing our bodies to actually tap into our stored body fat until we finally go to bed at night. This is yet another reason why the small, frequent meals are the worst thing you could possibly do if your goal is fat loss. Think of your body like a house. If you have excess body fat that you want to get rid of, you can equate it to having too much junk in your house, kind of like that show Hoarders. Think of insulin as the moving company whose job is to either move more junk into the house or move junk out of the house depending on the orders you give it. But it just can't do both at the same time. So if this couple wanted a clean house, would they be better off continuing to bring in junk but in smaller quantities? Or to stop bringing in junk altogether and focus their efforts on getting rid of the excess junk they already have? The answer is obvious, and our bodies are the same exact way. So how do we capitalize on burning the most amount of body fat possible as career-driven family men? The answer isn't cleaning up our diet or doing more cardio or not eating carbs. The answer is just staying out of the way and letting our bodies burn the stored body fat that they're designed to do, aka remove the junk instead of introducing more food, otherwise known as fasting. Now look, Chances are when you hear the word fasting, you think of intermittent fasting or fasting for 16 hours and then eating within like an 8-hour eating window. And truth be told, that's better than nothing. At least that way you're allowing your body a few extra hours in the day to keep your insulin low and burn body fat. But this is where I challenge your thinking a little bit. What if intermittent fasting was just the tip of the iceberg? What if you could push that 16-hour fast to 24 hours, 48 hours, or even 72 hours or longer? Do you think you'd burn fat if you kept your insulin low and stayed in fat burning mode for 2 or 3 days straight? The answer is obviously big time. Think about it like this. Although most diets are like an on-off switch where you're either doing them or you're not. I'm counting calories or I'm not. I'm eating carbs or I'm not. I'm only eating plant-based or I'm only eating meat or I'm not. Think of fasting as more of a dial. The fact is, everybody fasts. If you sleep 8 hours a night, you're fasting, which is why the first meal that you eat is referred to as break fast or breakfast. But if that's all you're doing, your fat loss dial is at a 1 or 2 out of 10, and your fat loss results will reflect that, no matter how clean you're eating. However, if you can crank that dial to a 7, 8, or even 9 out of 10, now you can essentially burn fat even faster than you ever thought possible because you're essentially turning your body into a furnace. Now, you don't have to be like Angus Barbieri, who fasted for 382 days straight and lost 276 pounds, who, fun fact, only ever regained 10 pounds back, which I'll tell you why in a second. But you can strategically work in 24, 48, or even 72-hour fasts to ramp up your stubborn fat loss into overdrive. Finally, a diet that actually puts more time in your day so you can work on your career, business, or spend time with your family. And I already know what you're thinking because I have the exact same concerns. Won't I be starving? Won't I lose muscle? Won't this slow down my metabolism? Won't this make eating with my friends or with my clients difficult? Quite the opposite, actually. You see, fasting, when done properly, actually reduces hunger and food cravings. This is true because it keeps your blood sugar and your insulin steady, it reduces ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, and it puts you into a state of ketosis, aka fat burning mode, which naturally suppresses your appetite. And when it comes to muscle, studies have shown that fasting, again, when done properly, actually retains more muscle than traditional dieting or calorie cutting. This is true because when insulin is low, human growth hormone is elevated. When HGH is elevated, it helps preserve more muscle, as well as a natural bump in testosterone that comes along with strategic fasting. It seems counterintuitive, but fasting actually speeds up your metabolism, making it much easier to sustain your fat loss results compared to any other method. As you can see on this chart, after even 4 days of fasting, even though weight was steadily going down, the resting energy expenditure, aka metabolism, was getting better and better. This is true because you gain more muscle, like we talked about, the increased amount of norepinephrine, which is an energy hormone, and you still get all the fuel your body needs straight from your belly fat because your insulin is low. This, coupled with the fact that you can strategically eat the foods you actually like, including dinner with the family or ice cream after the soccer game, allows for easy compliance and sustainable results. There's also a long list of health benefits if living a long and healthy life are important to you, but those are outside the scope of this training, so be sure to pause and take a screenshot if you want to do a deeper dive on those later. Now look, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Although I am fully convinced that strategically working in a proven fasting method is the quickest and easiest way to hit your fitness goals, the key word is strategically. As I was going down this path by myself, I hit every roadblock possible, including feeling weak, tired, hungry, losing muscle mass, and overall just not having a very good time. But now that I've dialed it in, we have it boiled down to a science. Now you may be thinking, okay, so I just have to fast as long as I possibly can. Simple. I would highly advise you against just going in blind, stringing some random fasts together and hoping for the best. Keep in mind there are other factors that come into play, such as your body type. This is going to play a huge role in the strategy that works for you. medical conditions or any medications that you might be taking, exercise history and how this affects the length of fast to focus on, knowing how to effectively start and end your fasts, what to consume to make your fast easier so you can actually stick to it and enjoy the process, how to structure your workouts around fasting to avoid being counterproductive, the checks and balances that you're getting enough of the right stuff in your diet during your eating windows, how to know when you should cut your fast short or even push it longer than you were expecting to. The list goes on and on. The fact is, most of these answers are personal, and I understand the importance of meeting you where you're at to provide you a customized solution based on your unique situation. Which is why I have actually cleared some space on my calendar so you and I can map out a strategic roadmap taking you from where you're at right now to 25 to even 50 pounds leaner and with more muscle, strength, and stamina over the next 90 days. So whenever you're ready, you can just click the link below this video and hop on my calendar while I still have time available to offer these free one-on-one consultations. We can talk more about that later. Let's jump back into the training. Once you have your strategic fasting schedule and nutrition plan dialed in, you'll be able to successfully and almost effortlessly lose weight. But to ensure that that weight that you're losing comes from stubborn belly fat and not your hard-earned muscle, the second thing you'll need to have in place is a strategic workout program. Trust me when I say this, you do not want to lose 30, 40, or even 50 pounds just to look like a smaller version of your previous self. The goal is to burn fat, build muscle, and get into tip-top shape. We do this by training smarter. If you're like I used to be, and like a lot of the guys that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last few years, you go to the gym, you alternate between the same handful of exercises with no real strategy or plan, maybe walk on the treadmill at an incline for 20 minutes, and just hope for the best. As I'm sure you can imagine, this is not the best way to see tangible results. Far from. Building a lean, strong physique is a lot like baking a cake. You can have all the right ingredients, but if you mix up the order that you cook them, or the portion sizes, or you just use the wrong temperature, or any number of variables, chances are you're not going to like the result that you get. Your workouts are the same exact way. For example, one thing to take note of is what's known as muscle protein synthesis. Now, this is just a fancy way of saying that after you work out a certain muscle group, you get the muscle building benefits of doing said workout for around 36 hours. Then what happens, you ask? You start to regress. So let's look at an example of a standard workout routine that puts our already low on time, career-driven family man in the gym 5 days a week. He trains chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, shoulders on Wednesday, arms on Thursday, and if he gets around to it, legs on Friday. Well, what happens after he trains chest on, let's say, 9 a.m. Monday morning? He gets the muscle protein synthesis benefits for 36 hours, which means until 9 p.m. Tuesday night. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he's regressing. And guys wonder why they spend decades in the gym with nothing to show for it. Let's make an adjustment and instead switch our hardworking buddy to a schedule that actually frees up time so he can grow his business, advance in his career, and spend more time with his family. Let's just give him a 3-day-a-week full body plan instead, for example. Now, during this full body plan, he's still only spending an hour in the gym, but instead of annihilating a body part beyond recovery just to regress for the next 5.5 days, we'll have him do 1 or 2 exercises per muscle group to allow full recovery. We'll have him do this 3 days a week, and as you can see, now he's consistently keeping his muscles in a growth phase and limiting any regression that would normally occur. Think of it like sun tanning. If you were pale and wanted to get a great tan, would you be better off doing more frequent trips with less exposure, casually building your way up, or laying on a beach in Mexico once a week for 8 hours at a time? Building your muscle mass is the same way, and it's extra delicate when coupled with your strategic fasting plan. But muscle protein synthesis is just one of the proverbial ingredients to consider when sculpting a lean, muscular physique though. You'll also want to consider progressive overload, periodization, time under tension, etc. But instead of making this training longer than it needs to be, here's what I'm gonna do so you can cut out all the bad information and guesswork and finally build the physique you've always wanted without having to earn a bachelor's degree in exercise science. So to help you out, if you click the link below to schedule your free one-on-one strategy call with me, I'll go ahead and hook you up with a workout program that meets all of the criteria necessary so you can, again, eliminate the guesswork and get to work building the physique you've always wanted. A turnkey program that you can start using right away. Just like Rick, who not only lost 44 pounds of stubborn fat using the strategic fasting schedule, but also added a whopping 14 pounds of rock solid muscle to his frame. Or Bo, who lost 28 pounds of stubborn fat and packed on a solid 18 pounds of lean muscle mass in the process. Or even Ben, who lost 50 pounds of fat while at the same time packing on around 22 pounds of solid rock hard muscle. On our call, I'll walk you through exactly how to get the most out of your workout so you can get these sort of results without sacrificing unnecessary time in the gym that may actually be killing your gains. I can't overstate this enough though. The fasting plan must be dialed in to meet your unique situation. It's not something you want to riff, and the workout program needs to be both based on proven principles and complementary to your fasting schedule. Otherwise, not only could you end up missing out on all of the body sculpting and overall health benefits both of these things have to offer, you could potentially make matters even worse by losing muscle, damaging your metabolism, or overstressing your central nervous system. Don't risk it. Go ahead and get your strategy call scheduled with me and we'll make sure that you're completely set up for maximum success. Now, although we've discovered and perfected the exact formula for combining an effective fasting schedule that torches fat with a resistance training plan that builds rock hard muscle to maximize results, even Hollywood actors known for their insane physiques like Chris Hemsworth, Hugh Jackman, and Terry Crews have started to catch on to the magic that happens when you combine fasting with scientifically structured workouts. Now, these celebrities not only have trainers pushing them in the gym and personal chefs that make sure all of their meals are dialed into a T, they also have the benefit of securing movie roles worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep them motivated, a luxury that you and I just don't have. Which brings me to the third piece of the puzzle. A lot of the guys that I speak with are under the impression that motivation, or the lack thereof, is the reason they've been stuck for so long. While they aren't completely wrong, it is impossible to be motivated when you're in the wrong environment. What these guys are really lacking is a tribe of other high-performing men holding them accountable as they build momentum, and coaches to answer the inevitable questions that come up as they go through this life-changing process. Think about it. It's no secret that most men are in the best physical shape of their lives when they're involved in collegiate sports, serving in the military, or in some other way surrounded by other competitive men who push them on a daily basis. What tends to happen though is these men go on to get married, have kids, be surrounded by these average Joe coworkers, and inevitably succumb to their environment. Snacking in front of the TV with their wife, eating their kids' leftovers, going to happy hour or pizza parties with the company, and not having a strong community of high-performing men to offset the balance. In fact, the Association for Talent Development conducted a study where they found the importance of accountability, stating that just having an idea or goal gave the participants a 10% chance of completing their goal. Consciously deciding that they would actually go for it gave them a 25% chance. Deciding when they do it bumped their odds up to 40%. Coming up with a specific plan gave them a 50% chance. Committing to somebody that they would do it gave them a 65% chance. And finally, when they had a specific accountability appointment with someone they committed to, their odds of success skyrocketed to a whopping 95%. Which is why after you book in your strategy call with me, you and I can dial in a plan to ensure that you get into the best shape of your life over the next 90 days using our proven method. And if you decide that using the fasting plans and workouts won't be enough, but you could also benefit from some extra accountability, camaraderie, and support, we can discuss what it would look like to work together within our Shed Fat Fast program. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As a recap, there are 3 things that need to be in place if you're serious about losing 25 to 50 pounds of stubborn fat and getting into great shape over the next 90 days. An effective diet plan that works with your responsibilities instead of in contrast to them. A resistance training program that's scientifically proven to sculpt muscle and works in conjunction with your diet plan. And a community of like-minded men who will push you, hold you accountable, and give you direction when you get lost. Let me ask you a serious question for a second. If you were to get into the type of shape we're talking about over the next 90 days, how would it feel when you walked into the boardroom or gave a presentation or even just met up with potential clients when your clothes were fitting better and you were able to project confidence? What about when you took your family to the pool for some rest and relaxation or met up with friends for a barbecue? And I'm genuinely curious, what do you think you'd do first if you had the energy and stamina of a 20-year-old all over again that maybe you're not doing right now? And I really hate to ask this one, but let's say nothing changes and you decide to click off this page and go right back to what you were doing. If you really thought about it, what do you feel like you'd be missing out on over the next 10 or 20 years? And besides the obvious, who else would end up being affected? Tell you what, let's not find out. Schedule your strategy call with me where you and I can get to know each other and start to bridge the gap between where you're at right now and the leaner, stronger 2.0 version of yourself. We'll cover the exact steps that you'll need to take to make this version of yourself a reality so you can start experiencing life through the eyes of somebody who has gone the distance in their health and fitness goals. The energy, the confidence, the respect from your peers, attention from your wife, and all of the other benefits that come along with being in great shape. Look, right now this is on the cutting edge of fat loss, but it's only a matter of time before it catches on and becomes the standard. Like I said, it's already starting to catch on in Hollywood. Where do you think trends come from? So before it does, set yourself apart and don't be one of the guys who gets left behind. Join the men just like you who have already gone on to lose 25 to 50 pounds of fat once and for all and have never looked back. Click that link below now. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to our call.